Since you came to Thurrock, and now we sit here at the end of July, what are your reflections on the borough and the council?
I think the most notable thing is really about getting a sense of the extent to which the story you get told of is the same as the one that's the reality of what's going on in Thurrock. Thurrock's got, or it certainly had, an interesting reputation. In some places it's pretty dire. My experience of local government is that even in places that got poor reputations, there's an awful lot of good stuff going on, and there's some really good people, and that's certainly the case. I'm also quite clear there's quite a few things that still need to be sorted out though.
Is this a new experience for you in respect of with the direction of travel report? Is this new to you?
Not entirely. One of the reasons why I ended up coming down here is because I was working in Aberdeen before I came here, and the reason why they asked me to go up there is the fact they didn't call it a direction of travel report because they do everything different in Scotland, but they just had a kind of a fairly difficult review by their auditors, and they had been told similar things to Thurrock, and broadly I ended up with the position of having to do a major change in management, major changes in the way that the officers related to members, and similar issues with regard to finances, and that's quite interesting too. And in fact it was partly because I was ending the assignment up in Aberdeen that I ended up working here part-time.
And recently you held a meeting at the Thameside Theatre. Was that meeting your idea, and what vibe did you get after the meeting?
This was a meeting with all of the kind of middle managers and other senior managers. We did it because, I mean, we'd reached a key stage in terms of working through what we were going to do, and whilst we could have communicated it by sending out bits of paper or sending out emails, you can't really do it in the sense of giving a large number of people, I suppose, a sense of where the organisation's going until you talk to them face to face. I think also the fact that I hadn't met most of them. I mean, one of the problems in being here is the fact that I ended up in too many meetings and I don't get around to seeing most of the people that work here. But what I did get from that is, one was the fact that most managers, they just want somebody to tell them what to get on with and how to do it, and they also want someone to basically give them a sense of the fact that, you know, we've got control of the organisation in terms of having a sense of purpose of it. I don't mean control in terms of, you know, being dictatorial about it, but just having a sense of purpose. And that's what most people want. They just want, you know, they want to be led in the right direction. They also want to be convinced of the fact that there is, you know, a discussion to be had about what the right direction was. But I think the most telling point of that was the fact that, you know, there were roughly 100 people in the room, and the vast majority of them were really keen to make Thurrock a better council, and most of them had some very good ideas about how to do it.
Is Thurrock's one of its problems that it is a unitary borough, that sometimes, you know, people say, is it Essex, is it London, is it east of England? Is that a problem, do you think, for Thurrock?
I think there's two issues that strike me about Thurrock. One is its geography is probably among the more complex of anywhere that I've seen, because, I mean, where does it... I mean, London Borough is very clear. It's kind of, you know, it's in a London arena, and if you're a county, you're fairly clear where you are, and most districts are clear about what they are and where they are. But Thurrock, it's, you know, it's unitary, which means it does all of the, you know, the key local authority functions. But in doing that, though, it has an incredibly complex series of relationships, and the fact that it's where it is relative to London, it can't ignore London. Lots of people that live in Thurrock travel to and work in London. And therefore it has a relationship, but it's not a London borough. It doesn't have a feel of London borough. 70% of the place is greenbelt. It feels as though it's in the country. Yet you've got this, you know, commuting issue. Yet it's also got relationships with the county. It's got relationships with the districts, and because there's so much going on in it, it's got relationships with the whole of the Thames Gateway. It's got relationships with the sub-region of South East Essex. It's got relationships with the much bigger sort of South Eastern region. So it's complex, more complex than you'd expect. The unitary issue is, I think, something about, you know, how does it work having a unitary authority which isn't a single, I suppose, metropolitan area. I mean, and there are some, there's quite a few. I might say they're more difficult when they're like that, because in effect you're having to provide a wide range of services by a relatively small authority covering a large area, and in that sense it's a difficult task. But it's not undoable, it's just difficult.
In the last recent cabinet meeting, you made reference to the improvement board, but you stressed that the key thing there was going to be pace. What does that mean?
Well, one thing you get a sense of in Thurrock is that we agree to lots of things. We probably overpromise and we probably underdeliver. This isn't just me saying it, it's kind of an analysis which lots of people have done. At one level that's good because we're ambitious, we say we're going to do lots of things, but by saying we're doing lots of things it means we don't focus enough, and what we often do is to do things slowly or badly. And I think if we're going to end up with an improvement programme that's going to make a difference, we need to be really focused and to demonstrate the fact we can make a difference in a relatively short period of time. Not least because, I mean, the world changes quite rapidly. I mean, public expectations change quite rapidly. People make judgments about you quite quickly, and I just think it's about maintaining momentum and demonstrating the fact the council can, if it's determined to do something, do it within a reasonable timescale. It's about kind of how you get energy within an organisation as well.
One of the key criticisms was in the direction of travel was the communication or lack of between the officers and the members, and often we'd see it as journalists in meetings where a council would stand up and lambast an officer. Under your stewardship, would you hope or intend for that to stop?
That isn't about communication, that's about inappropriate behaviour, and probably the most telling element in that direction of travel statement was about the description of inappropriate relationships between members and officers, and that was really about saying that we don't treat each other properly. To some extent it's about not understanding where the roles are, and I might say that's as true of officers as it is about members. And other things, it's about the fact that the kind of thing you just said, I mean, that is just inappropriate. If members have got views about the way that officers are behaving, the last thing you should do is stand up and lambast them in public. That's not what their role is about. If there's issues of competence, then they ought to deal with either the managers or me about it. And if it's an accurate assessment of behaviour, then they need to be dealt with. But all you get if you end up with that kind of behaviour is resentment. And you also get, to a degree, fear. And if you get fear, you get people who don't advise properly. Because I'm quite clear, our role is about giving advice which is proper, professional, properly considered and appropriate. It's not about double guessing, it's not about telling members what they want to hear all the time, it's telling them about what the real choices are and the real impact of their choices.
And what are your short or long term plans here in Thurrock? Will we expect to see you here at Christmas?
This isn't really up to me to decide that, but I suppose I'm being pragmatic and I'll try and answer it best I can. We've attempted to appoint a permanent chief executive just recently, and that final process was in May. If the council decides to go for another recruitment opportunity in the next couple of months, my guess will be that probably the applicants for that will be not dissimilar to the round we just had. I think what will make a difference is if the reputation of Thurrock is perceived by the wider local government community, particularly those that might be interested in applying, is different to what it was 5-6 months ago. Well, despite what I might do, I don't think the reputation is going to change in 2 months. It might change probably in the early part of next year. And I think that's already beginning to happen. I mean, people are saying things which partly reflection about kind of how people are now feeling, but it's also about the fact the organisation is becoming more confident, so many of the good things it's doing, which I think it's managed to hide remarkably well, are becoming more relevant to how judgments are being made. And there's some really good things going on in Thurrock. I mean, considering it's such a small place, we do some remarkable things. I mean, I'm going to the award ceremony tonight, nothing to do with what I did, but it's because, the people that run the transport have done some remarkably good things in terms of trying to make better use of public transport and design transport systems. And the amount of activity that's going on in Thurrock, it's in terms of new homes, new jobs, I mean it's probably more than virtually all of the rest of the sub-region put together. We underestimate, I suppose, the scale and nature of what we do, and I think we let the external judgment be formed by some of the negative stuff. So what I think part of my job is about is almost getting a greater level of confidence, a greater level of understanding. I'm also clear though it's got to be matched by fact. People will see behind anything that we sell if it's not accurate. So that's a long-winded way of saying I think we'll end up recruiting probably in the early part of the new year. And if we do that, it'll be several months after we start the process before I go, unless they decide that I should leave beforehand. But that won't be my decision.